Hello everyone. It's James again. And today, I want to talk about demons in human skin. Or reptiles that are in human bodies. And I also want to show this problem completely and across the board affects both genders. Here's what we are noticing. An increase in violent crimes. People. Or so-called people doing the worst kinds of things to other people on this earth. Now for those of you that don't have a faith-based belief, that's okay. You will still get something from this video. But for those of you that have a strong faith-based belief, and believe in the words in the Bible, it does make reference to the horrible things that will come upon the earth in the end times. And I'm not saying we are completely there yet. But it oftentimes feels like we are. And I know that we have more ways of reporting crimes that happen now than back many years ago. And there were indeed these same demons in human form walking around back then. Or humans with reptile minds. But it seems like due to our current culture and breeding processes that have been happening, such as lots of people that are so-called evil are having more children than ever. Because marriage and having children nowadays favors the evil. There's more for an evil so-called person to gain by having a child than there was in the past years. Yes. Evil people were there. And yes, they were having children. But the ones that couldn't mix well into society were on the outskirts of life. And those that were able to mesh well to a degree in society, if they slipped and didn't keep a proper front up, society was unforgiving to many of their lazy and evil ways. However, nowadays, this lazy and evil nature is not only rewarded, it's celebrated. Thus, it's an ideal environment for narcissists and psychopaths to breed. This is the nature aspect I recently talked about. Because the more these people with damaged minds, genetically damaged minds have children, the more of a chance they have they will pass the same defect on to another generation. But then we have the nurture aspect. This culture has been turned into a cesspool of evil. And I don't believe it's an accident. You see, I've talked about before how most Western countries, if not all of them, are run like corporations. And they always have a business plan. An objective, if you will. And oftentimes they will have this objective set for 20 years out. Or 50 years out. And everything they do puts the next step in motion. And the next step and the next step. All the while these corporate heads make the workers think it's all for their benefit. But in reality, most huge companies come up with what seems to be a great idea. They pay their employees well. They give them great stock options. And these workers think they hit the jackpot. Not knowing all of this is just temporary. This awesome pay and perks are given to the first wave of employees to get the ship started off right. But gradually over time, new things start to get developed. These workers are forced to use as a part of their job. And they are told it's just to make their job easier. When in reality, these are beta tests to see if it will make it cheaper for such a company to have certain parts of the business automated. And before you know it, the days of offering awesome pay and salaries where you could buy a nice house and send your children to college are gone. And they are now hiring inexperienced people at a lower salary. And fewer people at that. While the rest of the business is either outsourced or automated. And these steps to get to this is gradual for many years. Then before you know it, like the frog boiling in water, you are boiling to death. Or in this case, without a job. Well, the countries we live in are just like that. They know what they are doing. Yes. Movies can be a fun thing. To escape a moment and enjoy a good film. But I would be a liar if I said there's nothing in these movies or television shows to shape how you think. Because they most certainly put messages in majority of what you watch and listen to. Shape how society acts and thinks. Which is something I will be addressing in future videos. So what happened when our countries were being shaped? They needed reliable workers and a together family unit to build a strong country for their selfish reasons. Not because they actually wanted a strong country. However, now since they have what they want, they are implementing what I believe was planned many years ago. A strategy to depopulate this earth with good people, and populate it with wicked and evil people, and completely destroy the family unit as we know it. And they did this by creating laws that made it an ideal situation for evil to breed. And they changed the social laws to mirror the legal ones, to make it so this evil would grow unhampered and so it would grow and spread. And it has. You see it everywhere. Every day. Now one of the ways they did this was to push the idea that men were evil and women were always the victim. Never the victimizer. Yes. The gender issue. What this did was left room for women that were narcissists, sociopaths, borderlines, and psychopaths to go unchecked. Because anyone that says studies show that men are more narcissists than women simply don't know what they are talking about. On one hand they say narcissists rarely if ever seek treatment or will allow themselves to be diagnosed. So where is the data coming from? The prison system and other places where they can run whatever study they want. And who knows what kind of controls they have for these studies. But this leaves out the people walking the streets and business suits, both male and female. Some are doctors. Some are mailroom clerks. You just never know. Because these types, both male and female, can do a great job at masking these behaviors when they are so inclined to do so. You see, Erin Pizzi, who I've mentioned in my videos before, talked about how she realized early on in life that women shared the same ability for violence, lying, and all kinds of other bad behaviors just the same as men. And some of these women were women she was trying to help in her shelter, and she realized some of them were just as bad as their male partners. And her speaking about this is what put her life at risk. And why would that be if she was just pointing out something important? Didn't those women want to do the right thing by everyone? The answer is no. It's just like any company. They come up with something new that you notice might automate your job in the next few years. And if you keep speaking up and talking about it, you might be targeted and fired. Why? Because you are getting in the way of the corporation's agenda and timeline. Well, Erin Pizzi was causing a problem with this evil agenda at the very beginning. The agenda of bringing forth the world we now live in currently. And how did we get there? By breeding narcissistic and psychopathic people. And creating the right situations for evil to grow and spread. And by pretending one group is incapable of evil is an easy way for this evil to grow and spread unchecked. Here's a good, or rather bad example. A woman in Australia named Gemma Lilly recently killed an autistic teen named Aaron Pajic. Because she wanted to turn into a serial killer, and she wanted to do it for the thrill of it. And these stories are growing by the day. And though we see story after story for women not only killing their families, we are seeing women that kill someone and say they wanted to know what it was like to kill someone. Or they wanted to do it for the thrill of it. And no one grabs a clue and says, hey, wait, maybe we have this wrong. Maybe women are just as violent and have the same potential to be perverse and deranged as men do. Men are often talked about as these sick people with one-track minds that are violent. And somehow women aren't. And this lets the evil women do evil on a daily basis and it go unchecked. Here's another example of this. There are many Sin City destinations worldwide, where men are known to go for one thing. But it's never talked about there are similar places that women go for the same purpose. And they've had these places to go for a long time. But no one ever says, this is what's happening. Yes. There have been a few YouTube documentaries about this subject. But no one has the guts or societal pull to be able to say, here's something interesting. Women acting just like they say men act. It's called projection, people. The goal for the narcissist is to always project their negative behavior as to now being yours. And no matter how much evidence points to them doing what they are doing, there could be video and audio evidence of their wrongdoing, they will still deny it. This ugly narrative has been pushed for so long. Even though you have news story after news story of women side by side in the headlines with men doing the worst evil in the world, we are still debating if men and women are capable of the same evil. It's utter nonsense. But it's what the rich and powerful families want. This is the narcissistic evil world they want for us. Evil breeding evil. Here's another sad example. A woman in Texas recently shot and killed her husband, her 2 sons and herself. And no one is warning young boys and grown men to look for certain signs there's something wrong with their wives or girlfriends, and how to report such problems and get help. Aren't the people that are pushing the narrative we see in the world today about helping others? No, they aren't. Here's one thing Aaron Pizzi pointed out before, and something I will probably mention several times, so bear with me. But these groups that push the narrative we see get millions and millions and millions of dollars for funding. So if they want to do a special study and it costs money and their time, they get paid. If they need money so they can write a book, or travel to do this or that and meet with this or that person, they get paid. If shelters need to be open and operated, they get paid. And yes, it's good to have shelters to help women because they are abused. But the reason why they never address the big problem of women that abuse men and their children is that means all of this money that is being given to just women would more than likely be shared with both women and men. And the studies being done would have different outcomes altogether. There's people that get a lot of money that don't want to share it. If the truth were ever told, with real victims, both men and women getting helped, I'm not sure the motive of this woman that killed her husband and kids, and also herself. But don't you think if it's something we openly talked about, and had available help for, some of these stories might not happen? I don't know if it would have helped anyone in this case. But don't you think if men were made aware, hey look, if the woman you're with is showing certain signs, she might be a narcissist, or she might be a sociopath, or worse, a psychopath, and your life might be in danger, or she might try to steal your money or whatever. There's training and classes and studies about how dangerous men are to women. But there is little to nothing regarding how dangerous women are to men, and to their own children. And I believe this is done by design. So where do we get the demon stuff from? Well, there are some people that believe some people are born with defective minds. And to make matters worse, they might have been raised in a horrible home. And that's it. They grow up to be bad people that do bad things. The end of the story. But I believe such people are good vehicles for demons to inhabit. And that's why you see really crazy, horrible things happening. There's a movie I've mentioned before and I will probably mention again. And it's called Fallen. It's a Denzel Washington movie that came out several years ago. It's about a guy that is executed on death row. And the demon in him keeps jumping from body to body, causing all kinds of problems for the police officer that's responsible for him being executed, which is played by Denzel Washington. They talk about fallen angels pretty heavily in this movie. And yes, it just seems like a supernatural thriller. But this is something the Bible talks about. It talks about the angels cast down from heaven and mating with human women, and the great flood destroying all of this. And though their bodies disappeared, their spirits remained looking for whoever they can jump into. Yeshua, or Jesus, cast them out of man, and put them in a bunch of pigs, and drove them off of a cliff. So if you believe in Jesus, you might want to look at demon possession because it was something he dealt with. I think the more damaged genetically a brain is, and damaged a soul is from abuse and programming, the easier it is for these demons to jump right in such a person and take their body on a joyride. And I believe this is one of the reasons why we are seeing a rise in all kinds of horrible crimes and killings. Because the perfect hosts have been created through nature and nurture. And the portals have been opened. Which is the perfect storm for demon possession to take place. The brief times I've talked to my mother over the years. It's like talking to a puppet. I can see the reptile in her scanning and looking for something that can be used for harm or evil. It's sad, but it's like I'm not talking to a real person with real feelings. Now, do these narcissists know what is going on? I believe they do. It's not like they are unaware they are being controlled by evil. They know. It's my belief they give themselves up to these things in many cases. But whatever the case, it's increased. And it's like it's been covered up in plain sight. Yes. It's being reported on. But no one is diving deeper to fix anything. Ask yourself why. Just ask yourself why. Well, that's all I have for now. Please let me know what you think. Thank you all for subscribing. I do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. The goal is to keep on growing. So those without the truth get it? So they can get away from toxic relationships and toxic families. And so they can grow and become the best versions of themselves. With that being said, let's continue to pray for wisdom. Let's continue to pray for strength. And let's continue to pray for courage. And until next time, bye for now. And be good to yourself.